friends, welcome. Welcome. I have not been live in a while, so this is kind of a treat. Come on in if you're joining us now, or if you're joining us later, that's totally fine. I know everyone's schedule is crazy these days, and I had to fit this live in kind of between my kids' classes when nobody was going to be on the Wi-Fi for a while. In any case, welcome here. I'm going to be adjusting this. Okay. Hi. So if you're joining me now or joining me later, I am going to be demoing a project today. Oops, sorry. I'm adjusting this. I got a new setup here, and so I'm kind of, since my lives that I was doing earlier in the year, I had a different setup. So this is, you have to bear with me a little bit. Anyways, today we're going to be doing a quick project. We are going to be making a paper parachute. This is a very, very, very simple engineering project for kids, and I really enjoyed this project. I'm going to be honest with you. In my classes last year, we did a parachute project. It was based off of a Leonardo da Vinci model, and it just did not fly very well, or did not float very well. And I know that at the time my students, some people had success, but some of the students were a little disappointed. And oh, how I wish I had had this project at that time, because I think they would have been thrilled to do this, because there's nothing more fun than dropping a little parachute off. So we're going to go ahead and do that project in just a second. Before I get to the demo, I wanted to really quickly talk about my sponsor today, which is SAE International's A World in Motion program. So A World in Motion is an engineering program that is based in classrooms. And this has been developed by SAE International. They are a group of engineers, a society of engineers. They've had this program in classrooms for over 30 years. But during the pandemic, they said, you know, it would be wonderful if we could start bringing these resources to the general public. So to people like you and me, to families, to parents, grandparents, caregivers, and even to teachers who may want to still incorporate engineering projects in their curriculum, but it's something they can send to their students, because obviously most of us are not in physical school right now. And if you are, a lot of the time, I know it's kind of a hybrid model, so there's just not a lot of time for hands-on activities. So AWIM and SAE International said, let's start making our resources available to the general public. And I'm working with them on 3 projects this fall, and I worked with them on another project earlier this summer. And they're all engineering projects that kids will love. So I'm excited to share the one today with you. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera around just a second. If you need any of the templates for today, you can check the description below. I have a little paper parachutist. That's hard to see. A little figure that we're going to attach to the bottom of our parachute. And you can get that template in the description via the Babble Dabble Do link. And then AWIM also created an activity guide for this project. So again, if you're a teacher, this would be wonderful for you to send off to your students, because this is a PDF. You can send it off to them. And I should mention that all of AWIM's resources, their STEM at homepage, it's all free. So it's a wonderful thing that they've done. I'm very excited to be partnering with them and sharing it with you. So let's go ahead and turn the camera around, and this is where it's going to be fun for me, because I have not, let's see if I can do this. I'm using my new gizmo, so you're going to have to give me a second to, there we are. Not too bad. I got a little light, so I'll put that on there. Oh, no, that's going to tip it over. We're not going to deal with that light. Okay, so we are going to be making this paper parachute, and if you saw my email earlier today, what you're going to need is, I've got a few extra things I'm going to talk about in just a second, but you're going to need at a minimum a piece of tissue paper. I'm going to adjust this so you can see a little better. How about that? That's pretty good. You're going to need a tissue paper. If you don't have a tissue paper, you could also use like a plastic baggie. I wouldn't use a heavy plastic bag. I'm thinking more of like a produce bag. but you're needing a sheet of either tissue paper or like a produce bag. You'll need some tape, or I've got these sticky dots. You're gonna need a little bit of string. You will need scissors, and if you're gonna make the figure, you're gonna go ahead and need to download that and grab a glue stick. And then a pencil and markers are handy, as well as a ruler. So let's go ahead and get started. And I just, before we get right into the project, one of the things that if you go to the blog post, you'll see is the first part of this project, and the way AOM conducts this as a classroom activity, is they actually encourage kids to look at seeds and use the idea of how do seeds disperse in nature as the inspiration for the parachute that we're designing today. So they also have a couple other activities you can do, including a paper helicopter, which is in the activity guide. But the parachute is really based on a dandelion seed. So kids, if you've ever looked closely at a dandelion seed, you probably realize that it has a furry top. That's called the pappus. And it has the stem. I wonder if I could, if I used my, would you be able to see that any better? If you have a magnifying glass and you go collect seeds to observe and look at beforehand, get a magnifying glass. But they have the pappus, which is the furry top. They have a stem, and then the seed is actually carried at the bottom. This is really hard to see, but I think most of you guys are familiar with the dandelion. And this is the same concept that we're going to use for our parachute. So that furry bit at the top really helps the dandelion seed catch air, catch a breeze, and drift off away from the parent plant. Because if you think about it, no seeds cannot be just dropped right below below their parent. Otherwise, you'd have trees growing on trees, and there'd be a lot of competition for resources. So in nature, there's a lot of examples of the way seeds are dispersed. They're dispersed in many different ways. Acorns roll. These fabulous maple seeds kind of fall like a paper helicopter, like a helicopter. There's seeds that have burrs on them, so they get caught in like an animal's fur, and different methods by which seeds can actually get away from the parent plant. So that's something I touch on in the blog post, and it's a great add-on if you guys want to do this, continue this activity, or do that from the start. You can go on a nature walk around your neighborhood and find some seeds, and then really observe them and think about how they would be dispersed. So like I said, we're going to use the dandelion as our kind of model, and we're going to go ahead and make this paper parachute. Now, last thing I'm going to mention before we actually do the project is on AWIM's STEM at Home website that I mentioned, they also have these really cool, now you get a PDF of this, but they have books that you can read to your kids. That this one in particular is about seed dispersal. It's a story about how the trees had to come together and decide to disperse their seeds out into the world, or else they were going to be it was going to be a very crowded forest. So there's a lot of fun stuff on the STEM at Home website, including those storybooks. It's a great add-on for the if your kids are excited about this, you can do, you can add in some literature and different aspects to it. So let's go ahead and get right into this project. I feel like I've talked a lot. And thank you guys for joining me today. It's fun to do lives. Okay, so we're going to grab our piece of tissue paper. You want to cut it to be about 10 by 10. This one is a little bigger. Actually, in the post, I encourage you guys to test out a couple different sizes, because surface area is one of the things that affects how a parachute falls. And so one of the goals with this project is to do some testing and prototyping. Prototyping is a big word for making a variety of models and testing different variables in each of them. But for now, let's go ahead and do the basic. So we're going to start out with a roughly 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 in that ballpark piece of tissue paper. And now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half. And easy breezy. You guys, this is such an easy project, and that's why I love it, because it's easy and fun and not complicated. We're going to fold it in half again. Not hard, right? Now we are going to open it up, and we're going to mark the center. I'm going to turn it over, And I'm just gonna put a little point at the center. This is gonna be the point at which we are going to, let me turn my light up a little bit so you can see, at which we're going to drop our parachute, okay? Now, it's optional, but if you want to decorate your parachute, like I did with some of these, you can go ahead and do that now. I would do it before you add the strings because otherwise it's gonna get, it could get tangled up. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a paper and we're gonna decorate this. Why am I grabbing a paper? Because I'm gonna be using oil-based markers. If you have Sharpies and you decorate a piece of tissue paper while it's folded, it's pretty cool because tissue paper is so thin that your design will bleed through. So this is kind of just a fun add-on. Like I said, this part is sort of optional, but I always love decorating things because I think it adds just a playful element. I'm just gonna add a little bit of a design today. And these aren't Sharpies that I'm using, but they are like an alcohol-based marker, so they bleed. They're pretty strong. So if you want to do this, you guys, you can. I'll go ahead and add a little bit, but then we'll just get right into the construction of this, and then you can you know, make other paper parachutes that have fancy decorations if you'd like. Let's go ahead and do this. Whoops. So sometimes it's fun to use like a material like tissue paper because it bleeds, because it's so thin, you can really sort of use that to your advantage in this. And we're gonna make this, we're gonna basically make half or a quarter of a design, and it's gonna end up being an entire design because it's bleeding through the layers. And there we have it. Let's add one more thing. How about some blue? I mean, come on, right? You gotta make a fancy parachute. I always see, my dad lives in a place near the ocean, and so whenever we have gone to see him, not recently, but you see the fancy sails that the sailboats have. It's always a nice little ad. Okay, so now you see that because I decorated it while it was folded, I get a full design without having to do a lot of work. So that's why I say to do that. Okay, so you guys, now we have our paper here, and the next thing we're gonna do, this is our parachute, is we're gonna add some strings. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the strings. And this is where, if you have a ruler, that would be great. If you don't, the size of the string is roughly about the length of your parachute. It's actually a little bit longer, but let's go ahead and start cutting some string here. I am gonna cut mine to be about 12 inches long. And then here's a little pro tip, you guys. If you have one length of string cut to the appropriate size, you can use it to measure all of the rest of your lengths. So you just put them side by side, and then you cut at about the same point, okay? That way you don't have to measure it with the ruler that many times. You just put them, gather them, cut, and gather them, and cut. So you're gonna need 4 pieces of string because we have 4 corners of our parachute. So let's go ahead and add this now. So again, I got 4 lengths of string, and I'm gonna place them. I'm gonna place them so you can see like 2 of them here. They're gonna be coming off each of the 4 corners, okay? And they're gonna be going off in a diagonal. So that's the placement, the rough placement you wanna put them at, okay? So you're probably not gonna see the ones at the bottom here because this is a big sheet of paper. But you should place them like this, and then we're going to tape them in place. Okay, I had the, like, part of the SAE, the AWIMS kit that they gave me to work with on this project included these sticky dots, and I love them because they add kind of another design element to it. So again, you can use tape, you can use washi tape, you can use sticky dots or stickers if you want to. Just make sure that everything's pretty lightweight. Okay. Whoops. And then I forgot something, you guys. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't bring my paper clips. We're gonna need paper clips for the next part. Okay, so here we are, we're ready. We basically have our parachute, and it's got 4 strings off the 4 corners. Now, I found the easiest way to do the next part is to fold your paper parachute back into 4ths. Again, back to that square. And then all of your strings will be kind of neatly gathered at the bottom. Make sure you guys can see. Okay. And so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to add a little bit of light here. I feel like it's dark in here today. Okay, I don't know if I can actually. So now we're going to basically thread this through a paper clip. It might make it easier, you guys, if you gather the strings and add a little bit of tape or a dot to the end, because then we're going to put it through a paper clip. This is kind of like the seed. Like if you think of a dandelion, this is the pappus. This is the equivalent of the pappus. The strings are the equivalent of the stem, and the paper clip is the equivalent of the seed. And we're basically going to tie it like so, and now we have the basis of our parachute. Let me grab my figure, because I thought it'd be really fun to add a little parachute jumper to this, because if you've ever had one of those army men parachutes, this reminds me of that. So we're gonna make a little guy or girl to put at the bottom of our parachute, and you can get this template, like I said, via the link in the description below. So if you do have the template, I'm gonna make this pretty quick so that those of you that don't have it, you can just kind of see what I'm doing real quick. You can also just hand make this. It's not that hard. You just kind of draw a figure, and you want to double it because we're gonna basically sandwich this paper clip onto it, and have a little figurine on both sides. So I've got him or her. I'm gonna make mine a girl. She's she's on both sides here, and I'm gonna make her a little more visible by coloring her like a teal. I suggest that if you have heavier weight paper like cardstock, that you do this on cardstock. But remember, we're at all the weight that we add to our parachute, you know, it can affect it. So you don't want to get anything that's too heavy. So I've colored my figure. I'm going to cut this solid line here. I'm going to fold along here, the center, and then I'm going to fold these flaps back, okay, A and B. And what this will do is make my figure sort of like it can stand up, okay? Now, in all the times I launched my parachute, I only got the figure to land once standing up, but that's okay. It's still fun to have. So if you make the parachute jumper, the girl or the guy, then you open it back up, and we're gonna add some glue to the back of it, and we're gonna sandwich our paper clip. If you wanna try to sandwich the string in there, you can. Sometimes it's a little bulky. We're gonna sandwich that in, we're gonna fold it back, and now I have a paper parachute with a little figure at the bottom. Cool, right? Okay, I'm gonna turn my camera around just a second to show you how to launch it. Let me just be very clear on one part. Okay, it's not hard to launch it, but what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to open it back up. That's important. And we're gonna grab it at that center point that you marked in the beginning, okay? That's how you're gonna launch this or let it go. Okay, that's the main idea. And let me turn this around and we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. Let me move my camera. And here we go, I'm back. All right, okay, close up too. Let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna move a couple things out of the way here. And let's see how this launches. So kids, if you've made this, this is it. We're gonna launch this. Now, I do not have a 2-story space where I live. I don't have a balcony. If I did, I would totally go, if I had a 2-story house, I would go to a place where I could drop this maybe off, you know, over the stairway, something like that. Be safe though when you do it. Don't ever lean over or anything like that. But I'm gonna drop it just right here so you can see. So again, I'm gonna lift it from this top point. And there it goes. You can also, after playing with it a lot, sometimes the top gets a little bit, just a little squished, maybe a little moist from your fingers. I mean, this is tissue paper, so it tends to absorb any moisture. So you can also put your hand under it and go like this, and it will fall. A fun tip, you guys. I'm gonna show you a couple more. If you have slow-mo on your camera, have somebody film your parachute dropping at slow-mo, in slow-mo. It's so cool. It's so fun to watch them drift. You may end up after a while that they get a little tangled too. You can either try to untangle them. This guy's a little too much for me to untangle now, but it still works pretty good. You can tell though, because it's tangled up at the bottom, it has less, it restricts getting the air underneath this, that it's a little bit, it's not going down as well as the others. So these are just things that you should notice. And as in an engineering project, these are important things to notice, right? You want to understand why and how a design is working and what makes it better, what makes it worse, what things are affecting the way it's behaving or moving. So if you go to the post, you'll see a lot of information on the science behind this. I'm just going to stand for the rest of this, I think. You'll see a lot of information on the science behind this project. I talk a lot about surface area and drag, which are things that are affecting the way this is floating down to the ground and how fast. We also talk about prototyping. We talk about math, because when we were doing our design work, we were actually folding this and creating axes that we then used to our advantage, like I said, to create a symmetrical design. There's a lot of steam in this project is basically what I'm trying to tell you guys. So it's just full. It's easy and it's full of all these fun things. So somebody's passing me by here. I'm coming to you from my garage, so it's, you know, it's busy over here. Anyway, that's basically our project for today. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, I highly recommend that you head over to my blog to grab the templates and get some of this information, and then go to AWIM's STEM at Home page and check out all the other projects they have, because there's a lot of really great resources. And if this is the kind of thing that your kids love, they're really gonna love all the other projects over there. And I've also got 2 more coming. One later this month that talks about programming offline, so I'm excited about that. And a music one that we're gonna do later, probably in November, where we're gonna design our own musical instrument. So it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to partner with them. Oh, thank you so much. I'm looking closely here. DIY for kids, yes, thank you. So I hope you guys will join me back. I'm going to do a live demo for each of those projects, and it's been fun to be here. So be sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you get all the notifications for this. And also I'll put a link to my email list as well, because that's where when I do these demos, I try to send out all the information in advance so that you guys can be prepared and do this along with me while we're making the project. All right, that's it, you guys. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.